Yasodanandana Bhajatana Ranjana Yasodanandana Bhajatana Ranjana Namunatira Onatari Namunatira Onatari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Gopi Jana Ballabha Giridharadhari Yasodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Namunatira Punachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Gopi Jana Ballabha Giridharadhari Yasodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Namunatira Punachari Namunatira Punachari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Prabhujakacharya, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shri Gadadhar Shri Bas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Today is the 8th day of the waning moon, designated the dark side of the moon and called Krishna Paksha. Krishna means dark, and the famous dark person, of course, is Sri Krishna. The day is designated Bahul Asfami. Each month has a dark half and a bright half. There's 15 days in each half. So each month has 2 astamis. There's 24, maybe 25 astamis in a year. But some are famous astamis. For example, we say Janam Astami, the 8th day of the birth, and that refers to Krishna. Or we say, and today we say Bahul Astami. This is the Astami, which is the pastime of the Bahula, the cow. And similarly, we say Nishinga Chaturdasi. Nishinga is on the 14th day. So we don't need to designate which month or which part of the month it is because it's famous. Like we can say here, Thanksgiving. Everybody knows when that, or Labor Day. It's not a particular labor or so. Today is Astami, Bahulastami, and it has a specific significance because today was the day in which Lord Chaitanya discovered, rediscovered Radhakund today, and Shamkund. So, Rupa Goswami in the Mathura Mahatya, verses 439 to 441, and also, coincidentally, Sanatan Goswami in the Haribhaktivilas, chapter 16, verses 207 to 210, they both quoted Padma Puran and the Kartik Mahatmya. Mahatmya is, the word means glorification. So there can be glorification of so many different subject matters. And that usually a small volume, sometimes just a number of verses, 8 verses or 20 verses. This can be termed a Mahatmya. For example, there is the Devi Mahatmya, which tells of the different incarnations of Parvati and her different pastimes and so on. And so here we have there is a Mathura Mahatmya, the Tulsi Mahatmya, so many different glorifications of these different entities. So Mahatmya means glorification, and Sanatan Goswami in the Kartik Mahatmya, both of them quoted the Padma Puran, and the verse in the Padma Puran is Kartike Bahul Astami Tatra Snatva Haripriya. And this translates into English as that on the 8th day of the month of Kartik, in the dark half, the waning moon, the moon is getting smaller and smaller till the dark moon day, Amavasya, that if a person bathes in Radhakund on this day, they become very, very dear to Lord Krishna. Since Lord Chaitanya discovered Radhakund and took his bath there, it was very small, very shallow, but he bathed there for the. Since then, 500 years ago, Vaishnavas have made a habit, they make a pilgrimage to Radhakund and they take their bath there. And the appearance of Radhakund, they celebrate almost at midnight at 11:45 in the evening. And thousands and thousands of pilgrims go there at that time. The place is absolutely thronged, and people wait on the banks of it's all very organized now. The banks are made of stone, there's steps, there's places to sit, there's chains which people can hold on to if they're old or if they're unfamiliar with swimming. They can hold on to the chain as they go down the steps which submerge into the water. And people are taking their bath there all year long, but in particular this place at midnight, although it's cold, it's getting cold now in Vrindavan, the winter is coming in, it's definitely late autumn. But nevertheless, people go. It's absolutely phenomenal. The amount of people are there, and everyone's intent on getting this glorification, this purification from Radhakund on the day that it was rediscovered by Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya was in Braj at that time for 4 months, between September to December. So this is Chaturmasya. This is the 4 months of the rainy season in which sadhus, they tend to stay in one place and not travel so widely. So Lord Chaitanya was staying in Braj at this time. And in Madhya Lila, chapter 18, verse 3, it describes that Lord Chaitanya, as he's wandering around Vrindavan, absorbing himself in the memories of the pastimes of Sri Krishna, he came to a place called Aratagram. And this had been shortened and derived from Arista. Arista. So Arista was the name of a bull. Arista Shura. Arista was an Ashura. He was one of Kamsa's minions, and he, like all of Kamsa's supporters, he was very much inimical to Krishna because Kamsa had received the prophecy that Krishna would kill him, he would dethrone him, he would take his kingdom. So, although he was just a young boy, Kamsa was very intent on discovering the whereabouts of Krishna initially, and then sending various demons, the Putana demons, so many Asuras, in order to kill Krishna. So Arista had the form of a bull, and he came to Gokul, where Krishna was, in order to try to kill him. He was intent on killing him. So he came there. He was pawing the ground, scraping the ground with his four legs. He was snorting. He was looking very inimical. It described that he was very big, and as a poetic measure to describe how big he was, it said that the clouds were gathering around the hump of his back, mistakenly thinking that this was a mountain. So he was there and he was facing off Krishna, and Krishna told him, he said, "You are a fool, you are a wicked rascal. What are you doing, terrorizing all these Brijbasi people, causing trouble? What do you think you're doing?" He said, "Now I'm going to punish you." And it describes how in the 36th chapter of the Bhagavad Puran, of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is this Leela of Aristasura, and it describes that he charged like a thunderbolt. So, I want to digress a little here and talk about relative speeds. In 2009, Usain Bolt set a record for the 100-meter sprint, which has not been defeated even till now, 15 years later. And he did the 100 yards in 9.58, 100 meters in 9.58 seconds. And there's very precise equipment now for measuring, and typically one of the expensive Swiss watch companies, they will donate the measuring devices for measuring exactly how fast people travel with photo finishes and so many things. And then this helps to sell their product. There's various watch companies have done this over the years. So they determined that his fastest speed was between 60 meters and 80 meters, in which he did 27.78 kilometers per mile. So the purpose of the Vedic scriptures is not to give very precise technical understandings or technical measurements, but rather the purpose of the Shastra, and especially the purpose of the Bhagavad Puran, is to induce in the listeners a spirit of appreciation and attractiveness to Krishna. Krishna is a particular avatar who is extremely playful, and in all of the different rasas with his different devotees, He is very playful in nature, and sometimes he bewilders them, he overwhelms them with love. So the whole spirit of Bhagavad Puran is loving devotion, to inspire loving devotion, to inspire pure, unmotivated bhakti towards Krishna. It's not meant to be a technical manual for measurement. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Antilila, chapter 1, verse 198, it is stated, "Sweet and pleasing are literary ornaments, like metaphor. Without such poetic attributes, there is no way to communicate rasa, loving relationships." So when we get into trying to describe Krishna, his personality, how he looks, the relationships, the content, the way in which he interacts both with his devotees and also with the demons, this is only possible if we resort to poetic language. So the poetic language is not meant to be precise. So in this case, Arista charging like a thunderbolt. We can measure the speed of a thunderbolt, lightning striking, and so many different things. But it's just to give us an understanding that he was off his mark very, very quickly and charged Krishna with great intent. So he charged as like a thunderbolt. Krishna, who had chastised him, told him he was going to punish him, he simply grabbed him by his horns and he wrestled with him, and then he threw him, it says, a distance of 18 steps. So the bull was not accustomed. Krishna was just a little boy. He was just a very small boy. He looked very innocent. He looked very harmless. And this was always a great surprise to the demons who were fighting Krishna, who thought they would just crush him easily, and to the demigods who were watching, even great demigods, Lord Brahma, who created the universe. He was just bewildered by this little boy. He's doing all these things. How can he do it? And Krishna's just doing it very simply, and Krishna will have a little dance in between and wave to his friends and so on. So he threw the demon a distance of 18 steps. Again, the demon charged him, and it describes that Krishna just dealt with him as with a person who was slapping a wet cloth in order to get it cleansed. So here, of course, we have washing machines and dryers, but it's very common. You will see people who wash clothes, ladies who wash clothes, or people who wash the clothes of others professionally. They will get the cloth, it's wet and it's soapy, and then they will hit it repeatedly, swing it and hit it repeatedly on a rock, and this dislodges any dirt or stains which is in the cloth. So they will first one side, then the other side. They maybe slap it 5 or 10 times against the rock. So in Krishna's time, where there were no washing machines, and this was the common way of washing, it describes that this is how he dealt with the demon, just by slapping him and throwing him again and again, holding his horns and throwing him, slapping again and again against the earth. And then at one point, Krishna, he just pulled out one of his horns and continued to beat him with the horn. And it says that this demon died very painfully. In the Garga Samhita, there is a narrative about a devotee called Varatanu. And he was the disciple of Brihaspati. Brihaspati was the guru, the acharya of the devatas. So he was his disciple. And then one day he was sitting lazily in front of him in such a manner with his legs sticking out. And Prabhupada also wanted it several times, and famously on one Japate, Prabhupada, it was Gopal Prabhu, who's now in Vrindavan. Prabhupada says, sit properly. And he wants him to sit, not sprawled out. So this Varatanu was not sitting as properly as Brihaspati, his guru, thought he should. So he then told him, he said, okay, in your next life, you want to sit like this, just with your legs sticking out like a bull. In your next life, you will become a bull. And so the disciple, he was disturbed by this, and but then Brihaspati said, but don't worry. He said, you will meet Krishna, and Krishna will take your life, and in this way you will become liberated. So before he became the bull, he was born as Chitraketu. And Chitraketu, there was one pastime in which he was passing, and he saw Parvati sitting on the lap of her husband, being very affectionate to her husband. And Shiva, he was still deep in meditation. She was trying to catch his attention. So Chitraketu, he laughed at this. He laughed at what he saw. So this made Parvati very angry. So she cursed him to become an asura. So here we have the two elements. He's an asura and he's a bull, and he's born as Aristasura. He becomes the device of Kamsa, and he goes to see Krishna. All of this is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 36th chapter, which is the slaying of Arista. In this chapter, in the slaying of Aristasura, because it's the day this happens is the day of Radha Kunda. So Vishwanath Chakravarti, he quotes 20 verses from the Puranas in which the pastime of Radha Kunda is described. And I'm going to read the translations from you. So Krishna, he has killed the Aristasura demon, and then he goes back to what he was doing, to have rasa dance with the gopis. But Vishwanath Chakravarti, he quotes that the innocent young gopis said, "Ah, Krishna, don't touch us now, O killer of a bull. Alas, even although Arista was a terrible demon, still he was a male cow. You will have to undergo atonement, just as Lord Indra did after killing Vritasura. But now you can purify yourself without going to the trouble. But how can you purify yourself without going to the trouble of visiting every single holy place?" So Vritasura, it's described in the Valmiki Ramayana, in the Balakan, the 24th chapter, that the Devas and the Rishis took Indra to the river Sarayu. So the gopis here are referring to Lord Indra killing Vritasura. And so after he killed Vritasura, he goes to the river for prayaschita. So prayaschita is voluntary atonement. Typically, through the river Sarayu, it originates in the Kamoan district of Uttarakhand, and then it flows in a particular direction, and it actually goes through Ayodhya. So somewhere along this river, he does his prayaschita, his atonement. And typically prayaschita is going on a pilgrimage to the holy places, fasting, giving in charity, performing tapasya, and central to this is bathing in the holy river. So the holy waters are central to the understanding of prayaschita. So the gopis, playfully dealing with Krishna, they include all the holy rivers, not that he just has to go to the Ganga, the Yamuna, or some other, the Bhagirati, but they're telling him he has to go to all the rivers. So Krishna is saying, well, how can I go to all the rivers? What I'm going to do is to bring the rivers here. So Krishna replied, why should I have to wander throughout the entire universe? I will at once bring all the countless pilgrimage places here and take my bath in them. Just watch. With this, Lord Mukunda struck his heel in the ground. Then he said, this is the water of the Bhagavati river coming from the Patala region. And now, O holy places, all of you, please come here. When the Supreme Lord had spoken these words, all the holy places went there and appeared before him. Krishna then addressed the gopis as follows. See all the holy places. But the gopis replied, we don't see them as you're describing them. Then Krishna said, then those best of the holy places joined their hands together and spoke up. I am the salt ocean. I am the ocean of milk. I am the river Sona. I am the Sindhu. I am the holy place of Pushkar, where there is a lake. I am the river Saraswati. We are the Godavari, the Jamuna, the Renu rivers, and the confluences of Prayag. Just see our waters. After purifying himself by bathing, Lord Hari became quite arrogant and said, I have produced a pond containing all of the various holy places, whereas you, gopis, must never have executed any religious duties on this earth for the pleasure of Lord Brahma. Then Srimati Radharani addressed her girlfriends as follows. She said, I must create an even more beautiful pond. So go to work. Having heard these words, the gopis saw that Aristasura's hoofs had dug a small, shallow ditch just west of Krishna's pond. At that nearby spot, all the gopis began digging up lumps of soft mud with their hands. In some places, it describes how they broke their bangles and they were scraping the earth to get handfuls of dirt with their bangles. But here it's saying, Vishwanath Chakravarti is describing it as being with their hands. And in this way, a divine pond manifested in the short span of an hour. Krishna was astonished to see the lake they had produced. He said, go ahead, lotus-eyed one, referring to Radharani. You and your companions should fill this pond from water with mine. So they have excavated the hole, and he said, go ahead, take some of my water. But Radha replied, oh, no, this is impossible, since the water of your pond is contaminated by your terrible sin of killing a cow. I will have my countless gopis gopi companions bring the pure water of the Manasa Ganga here in billions of pots. So the Manasa Ganga is about 2.6 miles from uh, Radhakund. It's actually in the town of Govardhan, and it's the whole halfway down Govardhan Hill. So quite an ordeal to bring so many pots as to needed to fill a pond, all of the way, pot by pot, with the gopis. So, but she said, this is what I'm going to do. I don't want your... So she's playfully teasing and rasa, and having rasa with Krishna. So she said, in this way, I will fill the lake with my own water and thus make its renown unequal in the entire world. Krishna then gestured to a heavenly personality who was an intimate associate of all the holy places. Suddenly that person rose up out of Krishna's pond and bowed down to the daughter of Vrishabhanu, Radharani. Then with hands joined and tears pouring from his eyes, he began praying to her in devotion. O goddess, even Lord Brahma himself, the knower of all the scriptures, cannot understand your glories, nor can Lord Shiva, nor can Lakshmi. Only Krishna, the supreme goal of all human endeavor, can understand them. And thus he feels obliged to personally make sure that you can wash away your perspiration when you are fatigued. He continued, he is always anointing your lotus feet with nectarine, charu, and yavaka, and decorating them with ankle bells. And he rejoices and feels most fortunate simply by satisfying the tips of your lotus feet, tips of the toes. On his order, we have immediately come here to live in this most exalted pond, which he created by one stroke of his heel. But only if you now feel satisfied with us and bestow upon us your merciful gland, will the tree of our desire bear fruit. Hearing this prayer spoken by the representative of the fully assembled holy places, Radharani was pleased and said, so, kindly tell me your desire. They then told her plainly, our lives would be successful if we could come to your pond. This is the benediction we desire. Glancing at her beloved from the corner of her eyes, the daughter of Vrishabhanu replied with a smile, please come. Her gopi companions all agreed with her decision and became immersed in the ocean of happiness. Indeed, the beauty of all creatures, both mobile and stationary, was enhanced. Thus, gaining the grace of Srimati Radharani, the holy rivers and lakes in Sri Krishna Kund forcibly broke through the boundary walls and swiftly filled Radhakund with water. And even today, Radhakund and Shamkund, they are separate bodies of water, but there is a passage that joins them together, and there's a walkway over the passage, so you can circumambulate the whole of Radhakund and walk over this joining area. So to your right, you'll see Radhakund, and to your left, you'll see Shamkund. Lord Hari then said, my dear Radha, may this pond of yours become even more world-renowned than mine. I will always come here to bathe and enjoy my water pastimes. Indeed, this lake is as dear to me as you are. Radha replied, I will come to bathe in your pond as well, even though you may kill hundreds of Arista demons here. In the future, anyone who has intense devotion for this lake, which is on the spot where you chastised Aristasura, and who bathes or resides here is sure to come very dear to me. So that night, the last verse says, that night Krishna initiated a rasa dance at Radhakund, generating a torrent of the greatest mood of splendiferous pleasure. Sri Krishna resembled a cloud, and Srimati Radharani a brilliant flash of lightning, filling the sky with abundant beauty. In this way, their divine glories permeated the expanse of the three worlds. So here again in this verse, we have poetic language. We have similes that Srimati Radharani was it's a metaphor. Sri Radharani was a brilliant flash of lightning. And Sri Krishna, a simile, he looked like a cloud. So, we had those verses. In Sri Radhakund Astikam, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami says, the moon of Braj, Sri Krishna, who loves that supremely enchanting Kund as much as the girl who is the abode of love and the crown jewel among the sweet young damsels of Braj, has made that Kund known by her name. May that very fragrant Radhakund be my only shelter. And on discovering Radhakund, Lord Chaitanya said, all of the gopis, Radha is the most dear to Krishna. In the same way, this pond known as Radhakund is just as dear to Krishna as Radha is. In this kund, Radha Krishna daily enjoy sweet water pastimes and have rasa dance on the banks. If someone takes his bath even one time in this kund, Krishna gives prem like that of Sri Radha in charity to the person who is bathing. And Rupa Goswami in the Upadesh Amrita verse 9 says, the holy place of Mathura is spiritually superior to Vaikuntha because Krishna appeared there. Most superior is Vrindavan because of Rasa Lila pastimes. More superior is Govardhan Hill, for Krishna lifted the Govardhan Hill, had so many different dealings with the assembled Brijvasis underneath, and he had various loving pastimes with them. But super excellent is Radhakund, for it is over flooded with the ambrosial nectarine prem of Sri Krishna. Who then is not willing to serve Radhakund? And Raghunath Das Goswami said, the supremely charming Vrindavan forest, the most resplendent Govardhan, and even the rasa-laden era of the rasa dance, what to speak of any other places of Krishna's pastimes, are not equal to even a particle of Radhakund. I take shelter of that Radhakund, which is as dear to Mukunda as his most dear Radharani. Today being Bahul Astami, I'm going to say something quickly about Bahul Astami. There is a village called Bati, 6 miles from Vrindavan and 9 miles from Radhakund, in which is the forest of Bahulavan. On the bank of the Kund there, the Krishna Kund, there is a temple, and the temple contains deities of a cow, a calf, a Brahmin, a tiger, and Krishna. So there was a famous event on this day, which is today, the Astami day. A cow was grazing, And in some versions of the story, the cow was drinking water from the Kund. And a tiger attacked. Tigers typically eat every 3 days. Sometimes it goes longer, once a week. They have had nothing to eat for a week. They're very hungry. They're eager, and they attack other animals. Some species of cats have a wide range of different food which they eat. One particular cat, a cheetah, he eats 84 different animals. These are all considered food for him. So a cow is a very good meal. He can gorge himself on this, sleep for a few days, and this will last him for a week. So when he came across the cow, we don't know how hungry he was, but he attacked the cow. The cow, who was named Bahula, conveyed a request to the tiger. She said, "Before you eat me, will you please let me go to my calf and give my calf milk to drink and to say farewell before I become your food?" And the tiger, he agreed to this, and he waited on the bank of the Kund. The cow went to her master, who was a Brahmin. She explained what was happening and explained to her calf. Both the calf and the Brahmin, independently, they decided that they would replace Bahula, the cow, with themselves, and they would go to the tiger to become its meal. So the cow, Bahula, she respectfully declined their offer, said, "This is my karma, it's my fate." But each of them insisted, so all three of them went to the tiger. So the tiger, he was just overwhelmed. Bahula had come back as she said she would. She gave her word. It was a promise. It was a pact of honor. But he was very surprised when he saw all three of them. And he was just looking and wondering where to start, where he would start his meal. And at that point, Krishna appeared. And he convinced the tiger that you can become famous if you give leniency to this cow, who was both very truthful and very honorable, that she stuck with her promise and she's come back. But if you would become lenient, then you could become very, very famous. So this appealed to the tiger, and he released Bahula from her promise, and the cow and the calf and the Brahmin rejoiced. And that they were so blessed by Krishna's intervention. So Krishna named that forest Bahula Ban and blessed the cow, Bahula, to become his consort, one of his consorts in her next life. And that day is called Bahulaban. So it was on this day of Bahulaban that Lord Chaitanya discovered Radhakund. There is no connection between the cow and Radhakund. This was in Krishna Kund. Some people think that it's referring to Radhakund, and this happened in Radhakund, somewhere there, and that the Bahulaban forest that Radhakund is in the Bahula. Many people say, well, Radhakund is in Bahulaban, but it's actually about 10 miles away, 9 miles away. It's in a different. Vrindavan is very, very large. It's about 1,200 square miles, so you can say 30 by 40. It's and the Charasi coast is a pathway around Vrindavan, around Brajmandal, and Charasya coast is about 2.2 kilometers. So it's about 110, 120 miles to go right around Vrindavan. And as we speak, people are walking around Vrindavan on a parikrama. They camp out every night in tents. They make prasadam, they cook. Sometimes they bring prasadam from Vrindavan. And they walk around to all these places. So this Bahula pastime happened in a very distinct place away from Radhakund, although some people convolute the two leelas. But this day is called Bahulavan, and it's the day that Lord Chaitanya discovered. If you were to draw a line from your birthplace to the moon and beyond the moon, it will reach a constellation. There's 27 constellations that the moon goes through in one complete revolution, and these are called nakshatras. And one of the nakshatras is called Kritika, which is also known as Bahula. And Bahula is a girl's name. People name they name their daughter Bahula. And the attributes of Bahula, the attributes of the Kritika constellation, is honesty, frankness, ability to earn faith and respect. And these are precisely the qualities that the cow Bahula conveyed to the tiger, so much so that the tiger let Bahula go, fully knowing that she would return and he could have his meal at that point. The other point that they asked me to say something about was snan and dan. So snan simply means bathing, and as we've said, with the Prayaschita of Indra, with the Prayaschita of Krishna, having his purificatory bath in Shamkund, then snan is simply bathing. This bathing to cleanse ourselves. People go to the Ganges. They go to for people put the ashes in the holy river, the Ganges, the Yamuna. It's said that as soon as one's ashes touches the Ganges, one becomes liberated from all one's pap, all one's karma, all one's. So there is a tradition of charity involved in Prayaschita. Typically, there's a pilgrimage, and many people, they actually walk to the pilgrim place, or when they're at the pilgrim place, they'll walk around Vrindavan, or they'll walk around Govardhan Hill, or they'll walk around the whole of Vrindavan, the whole Charasi coast. So usually there's some element of tapasya, there's walking, usually people are fasting, or they're on a restricted diet. They give in charity, so there's always usually a lot of recipients, willing recipients, lining up. You see rows and rows of people with their little begging bowl, hoping to become the recipients of this charity. And this is all so Dan is charity. When you give Dan, you give a gift. So Snan and Dan is simply the act of taking a bath in the holy places for ritualistic purposes, and then being in a mood of charity at that time, either before you go in or when you come out. So usually around the bathing ghats, there's lots and lots of people just waiting, hoping to be the recipients of this dan. So we've talked about Bahulastami, we've talked about the discovery of Radhakund by Lord Chaitanya, and we've mentioned this Snan and Dan. Thank you very much for giving me your attention. Hare Krishna. Any questions? So, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Hare